Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Red Raptor Writes, where today I'm here once again to remind you how old we're all getting because Jurassic Park 3 turns 25 this year, and I'm ready to check myself into a retirement home. Okay, yes, I was only 2 back in 2001, but that's old enough to attain Unk status. I've had a strange on-again, off-again relationship with this installment. I've always loved the original. The Lost World grew on me more and more as I matured enough to enjoy fine cinema. All of the Jurassic Worlds have each given me brain damage. JP3 though, I adored as a kid. Then in my teenage years when I discovered internet criticisms, I didn't want to play with it anymore. An extremely old video of mine continuously dunks on it. Now in my old age, let's go back in time to see how this sequel holds up. Does Jurassic Park 3 deserve its bad reputation, or is it an underrated classic, a diamond in the rough? Let's dig this up. Let's start off this analysis with the story and plot. Of course, you should know what happens by now, so spoilers ahead. I've got no clue what rock you've been living under if you haven't watched JP3 yet. We return to the adventures of Dr. Alan Grant as he's duped into a journey to Isla Sorna by Paul and Amanda Kirby, who it's revealed are really searching for their stranded son Eric. On the side, you have Billy Brennan, a student of Grant's who steals raptor eggs, which obviously pisses off some of the deadliest predators to walk the earth. The group suffers many casualties, they stumble upon Eric, and the raptors reunite their family. What you'll immediately notice is how light on plot it is compared to the previous two. Rather than big, thought-provoking adventures of businessmen trying to open new tourist attractions, followed by intense philosophical speeches, 3 is content with a brief 92-minute runtime where characters run away from angry dinosaurs. This comes with its own advantages and disadvantages. On the plus side, it's a very fast-paced film that's extremely watchable. I can plop in the VHS whenever and have a fun time. Probably a major reason why I replayed it so much as a kid. Each of the 92 minutes go by quickly since there's barely any time to go reheat your popcorn. One banger scene leads straight to another. It's almost addicting, which is probably why even after some unpleasant JP3 hangovers, I'm always down to keep coming back. I fall into this addictive cycle where I see it, complain about its many flaws, then immediately want to rewatch it again. This might be a hit with the younger, low attention span skibbity toilet generation who possibly won't need to watch it with Subway Surfers playing on the side. Yeah, I'm never giving Annalise an iPad. No iPad babies, please. That isn't to say the plot never slows down. There are some moments of characters connecting, causing us to grow more attached to them. Perhaps the standout that doesn't involve surviving extinct archosaurs is the exchange between Alan and Eric after Billy's sacrifice, the one about astronauts versus astronomers. It's a scene that's resonated with a lot of fans, including myself. A downside to being so briskly paced is how it feels too light on plot at times, as if more pages were written for the screenplay that didn't make the final cut. The sequel is infamous for having a horrible production as director Joe Johnston wasn't satisfied with any script, throwing out one version a mere 5 weeks before filming. You can find an entire library of all the different scenes, different ideas, concepts, and dinosaurs that were proposed for Jurassic Park 3, but ultimately got cut. Running out of time, Johnston started shooting without a finished script. He called the filming a living hell. Troubled productions can actually make a better film if the filmmakers think up some creative solutions. JP3 had no such luck. Behind the scenes issues left a mess of problems. For one, this entry isn't really about anything. Any themes to pull are pretty minimal. Sure, ideas are brought up, but lack development. This bleeds into another problem, mystery boxes. In the fashion of J.J. Abrams, mysteries appear with no payoff. The writers liked asking questions, yet not answering them. Many new dinosaurs roam Isla Sorna. How? Why? Does InGen have some new scheme up their sleeve after the events in San Diego? If new dinosaurs were being created, why did InGen stop? What killed those guys in the opening? Who knows? Perhaps answers float out there somewhere on some tie-in website or a comic book next to nobody read, but a movie should include fundamental pieces of its own story. If it ain't in the movie, then it ain't in the movie. You can't expect all moviegoers to fill in the gaps by conducting research online, especially not in 2001. When scripting on the fly, the writers may have forgotten to tie up a few hanging threads, or simply didn't care. So basically, what we have here is a basic premise that drives us from one action set piece to the next without being about much of anything. Sure, I can enjoy a good run from the Dinosaurs flick, but that's not what this series was about. It's what outsiders who don't care about the franchise think Jurassic Park is about. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of cool dino action, that's a given for these movies, but still, I miss the likable characters who engage with each other on ideas of scientific progress, control over forces we don't understand, and our relationship with nature. Lip service is paid to such topics, though again, this installment doesn't go anywhere with them or do anything to further them in new ways. Unfortunately, this will become the series' blueprint from here on out. Something else that bothered me, aside from the rushed pacing, is that I wish our protagonists were more proactive. So the Kirbys assemble a whole team to save their son, and I guess Billy egg-napping some raptor babies was one of the choices of all time. Though once everyone's on the island, they're mostly being chased from, again, one action scene to the next. They don't have much say in where the plot goes. The first Jurassic Park was more plot-driven, with the main cast surviving the circumstances thrown at them, but they still made crucial decisions at a few points that steered where the plot would go next. The Lost World featured very active protagonists since their decisions and actions steered much of the plot. JP3 yanks the cast around with minimal input, so they're robbed of agency. Their only goals are to survive, find a coast, which ties directly into survival, and save Eric, which isn't even something they actively do. He just appears to save the day at one point when Alan wasn't even looking for him. The script said that Eric must be found, so Grant's choice to head towards the coast instead was stripped from him. Overall, with the story here, it could have benefited from more attention before shooting began. The rushed nature of JP3's production really shows, which is a dang shame, cause there's a lot of fun to be had here. For this adventure, we turn our focus back to Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, after his absence from the Malcolm-centered Lost World. Similar to that character, Grant gets to play the cynic who's seen it all before. Much of the drama and many comedic moments come from him having seen it all before. He's begging, warning people to listen to him, but his many warnings fall upon deaf ears. After the events of Jurassic Park, our lead was traumatized, understandably so after many near-death experiences within the span of a day. To demonstrate this, audiences get one of the most mocked scenes in the entire franchise.
Alan!
Yeah, this didn't work. I understand wanting to demonstrate the protagonist's trauma, showcasing it visually to us, but it's so unintentionally hilarious. A talking raptor, really? Something like hallucinating a raptor jump scare would have worked much better. Or maybe give him some episodes of shaking uncontrollably. I don't know, get creative, finish writing the movie. Also, strange gripe here. Why did Alan dream about a JP3 raptor when he's never seen one like this? The only raptors he saw were the original variants on Nublar. That's a super obvious oversight. Moving on, dinosaurs are still his passion, especially velociraptors, though he constantly tries to distance himself from anything related to the failed theme park. Grant wishes to rewind the clock, to go back to the way things were through good old-fashioned fossil hunting, yet the rest of the world's moved on, more interested in the living non-avian dinos. As he predicted in the first film, paraphrasing stop-motion artist Phil Tippett, paleontologists are going extinct. Tippett was saying how stop motion was going to go extinct after he saw how CGI can be used during the making of Jurassic Park. So Grant's dig team only has a few more weeks of funding left before needing to pack up, so this drives him to a desperate enough place to accept Mr. and Mrs. Kirby's offer as a dino expert guiding them above Isla Sorna. Keyword, above. Dr. Grant is pretty much at the lowest point in his life. To make matters even worse, in one of the series' biggest blunders, he didn't even end up with Ellie.
You what?
After 25 years, pretty much my entire conscious lifetime, I still can't forgive Jurassic Park 3 for this. The fan outcry has been so bad over the years that an entire subplot of Dominion was dedicated to finally getting the two together 21 years later. The writers shouldn't have made this mistake in the first place. But even then in Dominion, the writers or toddlers who slapped this together misunderstood the original. If I'm remembering correctly, since I only watched the worst edition once in theaters, there's an exchange where Alan asks about Ellie's kids, to which she responds how they're off in college, which, on top of being divorced, serves as a green light for him to make a move. Holy dino dung! Son of a bitch! Grant's whole arc in the original was about him learning to become a dad and grow fond of having kids, which in turn would allow him to have a future with Ellie, who wants kids. The presence of Tim, Lex, and even Malcolm as competition challenged Alan in this regard. Remaining in the past, pushing away the future, new technology, kids, he was on a path towards extinction like the non-avian dinosaurs. By embracing these new possibilities, he's able to evolve into something beautiful like the birds of today. When a changed Alan stared out the window, he didn't see pteranodons in a weird ending that doesn't go anywhere. He didn't see dolphins, which had absolutely no meaning aside from a brain-dead callback to the original's ending. No, there was a pelican, meant to parallel his growth as a character to how dinosaurs evolved. Jurassic Park 3 took all that and defenestrated it. He still hates computers, his profession's still going extinct, and he still couldn't be with Ellie. After all his growth, we have to watch her raise kids with someone else. Now, with all that said, I still enjoy seeing Dr. Grant on screen. Sam Neill has perfect timing and delivery of lines that range from snide to ominous. His little arc about learning to appreciate InGen's dinosaurs could have used more time to develop, though it's still fine. I love the character, but some of the decisions made here were just awful. As for the sidekick, Billy Brennan, played by Alessandro Nivola, I really like this guy, not simply because he's a likable protagonist, though he is. Billy is a quintessential Jurassic Park character. The dude's warm, friendly, intelligent, even a bit of a Chad as we see in his introduction at the dig site. And man, he truly cares about paleontology, doing his best to keep Dr. Grant's dig team going. His good intentions led him down a path of other notable characters, embracing the ongoing theme of human hubris when he steals a clutch of Velociraptor eggs in order to raise funds. As Dr. Grant said, he kinda is like the people who built this place. There were sincere, genuine intentions from people like John Hammond, at least the movie version, that led to miscalculated, destructive decisions. Billy at least takes the chance to redeem himself for putting the group in danger and getting Udesky killed by sacrificing his life for Eric. Well, that would be the case if it weren't for the rewrites during production that brought the character back during the resolution. I remember hearing that Nivola himself pushed Johnson to make this call, but I can't verify this, I could be mistaken. His death would have added more bite to this blockbuster, no pun intended. If main characters are allowed to die, then it keeps the stakes high since audiences realize they're not shielded by diamond plot armor. I would prefer if Billy really did die to the pterosaurs to give his sacrifice more of a punch. Also, I feel the story ends on too high a note with the rescue, his survival, and Paul and Amanda reuniting. 3 decent men died in brutal fashion on this trip. Maybe we should mourn the tragic loss of life? Oh, and yeah, repeating the Lucky Pack thing from The Lost World was a totally unnecessary and dumb detail. When it comes to the Kirbys, gallons of ink have been spilled over how terrible and annoying this family is, minus Eric, who's more of a MacGuffin. For real though, this couple, portrayed by William H. Macy and Tay Leone, commits fraud, trespasses into a restricted area, kidnaps 2 paleontologists, and got several mercenaries killed. Upon their return to the United States, the Fed should throw the book at their skulls. However, it seems they got off scot-free because they learned their lesson or some nonsense. It was all for the good cause of saving their son, I guess. Seriously, Billy sees more consequences for stealing from animals than these guys. Despite all their crimes committed against Skyrim and her people, I can't find it in me to hate the Kirbys. At least they go through a mediocre character arc. Paul and Amanda are separated because they can't work together, then over the course of their adventure become more friendly and cooperative. Is it handled brilliantly? No, but it's fine. Also, in their bumbling about and ramblings, I do find myself amused by them. A nice balance is struck by having them be annoying in-universe, while staying enjoyable to watch for the audience, something that's hard to pull off. A few comedic lines always hit on rewatches, like the tricycle plots and it's a bad idea. Then there's this bit that always receives a chuckle. So, at least they're entertaining. Lastly, again, we do listen in on a few moments of the characters bonding, which don't add much plot-wise, but still humanize the family a bit. So, should Paul and Amanda Kirby spend the rest of their lives in a cell with Diddy? Sure, but their presence in the film doesn't bother me. Heck, at this point in the franchise, they're far from the worst characters. Paul and Amanda are far outclassed in this regard by the likes of Eli Mills, the clone trooper who caused irreparable damage to our ecosystems, and the most migraine-inducing of all, Mr. Put Raptors in the Military, Hoskins.
That is the dumbest idea you've ever had, and you have had some doozy!
Before we continue, I do want to give one shout out to Mr. Udesky, played by Michael Jeter, who doesn't do much here. He dies fairly early on to the Raptor pack, yet in the short time manages to make a good impression. Udesky's pretty much the most average Joe of a character we meet in the trilogy. Hired to coordinate the mission to save Eric, it turns out he's really just a booking agent. Once the Spinosaurus destroys the plane and strands the survivors in the jungle, he's pretty much here for the vibes. This makes his brutal death even more tragic. Sure, Udesky didn't achieve legend status like, say, Eddie, but from all we can tell, he was some regular, kindly man on a mission to save a child. Rest in peace, bro. When discussing this installment's dinosaurs, let's go from the least to most important because, man, entire textbooks can be filled with commentary on how a certain theropod gets portrayed for better or worse, so I'll save that for later. Kicking things off with my absolute favorite dinosaur, Ceratosaurus makes its one and only Jurassic film appearance here, for several seconds until he wanders off. That's nice. Okay, I can at least appreciate how, due to this short segment, Ceratosaurus has become an integral part of Jurassic Park media, featuring in several video games along with far more screen time in Camp Cretaceous. Also, yeah, here we see the second instance of Ceratosaurus getting snubbed in favor of larger, cooler predators. I say second because, funnily enough, this film premiered at Universal a single day after when Dinosaurs Roamed America first aired. Anyway, yeah, it's a striking design that holds up after all these years, even if the model is simply a tweaked T-Rex. The bright colors work on such a flashy animal, though you'd expect the ornamentation to possess bright colors since the purpose of those horns is literally to stand out visually. Here they're cornified as if used for combat, which certainly would have snapped them off. Not as awful as some later depictions, though certainly could have been treated better. I'm not asking for an unnecessary attack scene that adds nothing to the plot, that's a Dominion move. So either remove Ceratosaurus entirely or give it something to do other than a lame cameo. But again, I can't really complain. It receives more love in future things. Moving on from the GOAT are the various herbivores our crew encounters on their trip to Isla Sorna. None of them get their own dedicated scene, rather sharing screen time with the others. All of our beloved plant eaters are casualties of the super fast run for your life approach taken with JP3. Sure, you can point to a few moments spent with them, like after Alan's monologue about astronauts, but nothing all that memorable aside from, hey, that Brachiosaurus looked at them funny. As our third go-around, I guess we didn't need the classic in awe of dinosaurs scene we got at the beginning of the first two entries, so I do find it funny how Joe Johnston went full Rian Johnson to subvert our expectations, except Joe didn't destroy a multi-billion franchise in the process. Instead of staring in wonder at the first sight of these Mesozoic majesties, most of the cast don't give a dino dump since, again, they're only searching for Eric. You can tell how this confuses Dr. Grant, which is kind of funny and sad at the same time. If I was trying to talk about dinosaurs and instantly got ignored, I'd be struck with the big sad too. Slower bits of admiring herbivores were heavily sanded down in favor of more carnivore action. As for their appearances, not gonna lie, our leaf munchers got screwed over here too. They're either ugly as sin or so basic they have a paragraph memorized for their Starbucks order. Brachiosaurus sports a cool new color pattern complete with sexual dimorphism, though they look a little alien. Triceratops is well...
Damn, boy, he's sick!
Yeah, I get that this model was never meant to be viewed up close, so I won't hold it against the movie. As for the newly introduced Corythosaurus, the puke on mud aesthetic was a choice. So now each of the evolution games have been cursed with the most disgusting looking hadrosaurs thanks to this movie.
Why? Oh, no reason. Except you gave me the ugly!
The only way to win the game of Corythosaurus is to not play it. JPOG gave us a beautiful take on the creature by revamping the design. Being an actual quadruped helped too, not this disgusting kangaroo creature. The only herbivore to break this curse is Ankylosaurus, which also saw its introduction here as a bit of an edgelord. Edge as in the 2010s edgy, not the 2020s definition of edge. You get the point. That predominantly black coloration with splashes of red around the eyes makes you want to listen to some Skillet again. Too bad Anky's return with the most bland elephantine gray aesthetic like so many others in Jurassic World. Next up on our list of old predators on a tropical island, we have Pteranodon, the toothless wing, which the filmmakers depicted with teeth. Excellent job guys, 10 out of 10. In all seriousness, these are some of the most chilling, menacing hunters of the whole series. The patterning, the piercing eyes, those slow methodical movements when they're grounded, so good, so intimidating. 25 years and countless rewatches later, and they still give me chills. Plus, the build-up. Oh man, despite Steven Spielberg's absence as director, the build-up to their reveal is one of the few times in the film where it still felt utterly Spielberg, dragging out the tension, building it up to keep us on the edge of our seats. I honestly don't have much more on Pteranodon. Yeah, the real animal didn't have teeth. Yeah, they couldn't grab prey with their feet, but this isn't an accuracy review. Penultimately, we're blessed with some of the coolest raptors to ever grace our screens. Each Jurassic Park knocks it out of the park with these designs, but man. Plus those sound effects are already iconic, instantly turning them into some of the most feared predators in film history. Original JP, classic. Lost World Tiger Raptors, amazing. I would run into the long grass to hug them. However, this sequel gives us two entirely new designs, and they're both high S tier. I love the cookies and cream colored female, and then my beloved Quilliam Fancy Son with their piercing red eyes and blue stripe running down a not superhero dino's body. And dang, returning to these films make me miss when Velociraptor, or really Deinonychus, was represented as a thin, lightly built ballerina ninja glass cannon rather than the fat, bulky alligator face with giant teeth. Another species soiled in 2015 because someone at Universal really hated us.
Soiled it! 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 Soiled it!
Creature designers also added those quills on the male since between 1993 and 2001, paleontologists discovered clear examples of feathered non-avian dinosaurs in Microraptor and Sinornithosaurus. Though the idea of birds evolving from theropod dinosaurs had become more widely accepted since John Ostrom's description of Deinonychus in 1969, the connection between dromaeosaurids, the raptor dinosaurs, and birds became increasingly obvious. Here were clear examples of dromaeosaurids, relatives of Deinonychus and the real Velociraptor, who flaunted full wings. I get that. Yeah, it's a tough position to maintain accuracy to the already established film canon of what raptors looked like, while at the same time, paleontology is also rapidly advancing. And as unfortunate as it is, the general public receives most of their perceptions of dinosaurs from popular culture, instead of doing the slightest bit of research. Then much of what is accessible on social media is just awful. So the question remains, do movies like Jurassic Park 3 have a responsibility to portray its paleofauna accurately? I don't have a clear answer to that one. Feel free to discuss that in the comments. But I can appreciate the nod to our advancing knowledge of dinos by adding very light feathering. Another cool change is how the raptors pierce your soul with these circular, bird-like pupils, rather than the reptilian, albeit still creepy slits. They help convey a higher level of intelligence. Not that non-bird reptiles can't be smart, but those eyes akin to modern raptors tell the audience these are advanced thinking things and they're stalking you. Which brings us to a point of contention with this installment, how the writers made velociraptors too smart. Previously, they've been shown hunting cooperatively, planning ambushes, and opening doors, some things modern animals are capable of. Maybe not entirely accurate for dromaeosaurids, though still, I guess, within the realm of possibility? Okay, at least enough to be included in a Hollywood blockbuster. Check out my paleo mitts on this one. JP3 steps it up with elaborate traps and moments where they're engaging in full-on conversations like in some raptor language. Our expert Dr. Grant claims that they were smarter than dolphins and primates. Later, his claims are supported by observations on Sorna, so they seem to hold. My problem isn't with being inaccurate. It's how over the top and goofy it comes across. The whole intelligent raptor stuff turns them more akin to aliens or humanoids rather than dinosaurs. Yes, it's present in the previous ones, but the creators leaned a little too far into it this go around. Anyway, velociraptors get some great scenes, they look awesome, and still sound awesome. A huge win for the movie, even with a few gripes. Before I continue with the true breakout star, I want to briefly address a common counter-argument some fans use whenever anyone criticizes any dinosaur in the series. People often bring up Alan's response to a question after his poorly received presentation. After pouring his heart out over wild new raptor research, a viewer asks if scientists should just study the living dinosaurs on Isla Sorna rather than digging for scraps, making assumptions. To which Alan responds,
Now what John Hammond and InGen did at Jurassic Park is create genetically engineered theme park monsters, nothing more and nothing less.
His line is constantly used as a rebuttal, along with the really dumb Dr. Wu quote in the reboot, to discredit any criticism, because none of the dinosaurs were meant to be realistic anyway, which, 1, I don't criticize the designs for being inaccurate, I criticize them for being ugly or stupid. 2, it was a major point in the novel and first film how close the geneticists were able to get their creatures to the real things. I don't know why the internet treats them like mishmash Frankenstein's monsters. The source material clearly points out how close these were. 3, the whole premise of faking dinosaurs to meet audience expectations was shot down, even by grimy novel John Hammond. Film adaptation Hammond strive for an authentic experience as much as possible. Again, fans just ignore the way the source material was blatantly written. By reading what fans argue, you would think the book and the movie say the exact opposite of what they're actually trying to say. And 4, Dr. Grant isn't an omniscient narrator. He's a character within the story. Sometimes he's right, and sometimes he's wrong. It's made clear by the film that his line in the beginning was wrong. He's disgruntled, he's angry at the park, at Hammond, he's traumatized by the raptors, nobody's paying attention to his lecture, everyone's falling asleep or wanting to ask questions about Jurassic Park, and he's trying to discredit InGen. Upon arriving on Sorna, he's blown away by the dinosaurs again. He himself starts to study the predators. His observations on the island match up to his research of the fossils because, oh yeah, InGen pretty much nailed their reconstructions when we're not paying attention to the stupid reboot retcons. Later, Grant's able to appreciate the beauty and majesty of the dinosaurs as real living creatures. Sure, it's kinda rushed, could have been developed more for sure, but this character arc is still there. Please check out the video I already made on the subject for more details. Finally, for the dinosaurs, we move on to the main antagonist of Jurassic Park 3, the theropod that became an instant household name, Spinosaurus. Only Velociraptor after the first film rivals it for the most meteoric rise to prominence. It's obvious why Spino became such a success where others haven't had much of a stay in public consciousness. Obviously, it's a super unique animal with a 2-meter sail and long crocodilian snout. We gotta give a ton of credit though to the paleo artists and Stan Winston Studios in their striking design. On top of an already remarkable animal, it sported this reddish terracotta coloration along with a distinct blue and white diamond design down its billboard sail. A comparison with crocodiles is emphasized through those green eyes with thin slit pupils. Not likely in a tall diurnal predator, though still striking. Again, this isn't about accuracy, but the filmmakers did a great job in creating a well-informed yet aesthetically pleasing design. My only nitpick aside from the pupils is the double crest reminiscent of tyrannosaurids or allosaurids. Members of the Spinosauridae family only had one signature crest in the middle. Perhaps this was the intention in the concept art, but it was misinterpreted along the way. I've heard such speculation before. This is what we got in the movie though. These are small scientific complaints that still work visually. I also love the sounds this guy makes, which helps Spino jump up there in fame with Velociraptor and T-Rex. If you want to be a memorable predator, you need a memorable roar. And man, did the sound artists achieve that.
Do the roar. Do it.
The dang thing sounds like a large, ravenous reptilian predator coming for you, so the audio perfectly captures the animal, something in common with the other Jurassic Park standouts. I absolutely love the aesthetic choices made with Spinosaurus here, so it sucks to see the creature so underutilized. It hasn't returned for any Jurassic World film. No, the Rebirth one does not count. Nobody can gaslight me hard enough to accept this boring, ugly slop as a suitable replacement. Major downgrade. Whenever Spino has shown up, it isn't given the same love. The epic roars are nowhere to be found. Jurassic Park Builder, Jurassic World the Game, the Evolution Trilogy, Camp Cretaceous when it got bad. Whenever Spino appears, it's never as awesome as it was. The Hammond Collection Spino is mid, pretty much just Midtown Manhattan. I can't even find it in Target or Walmart anymore because it's been replaced by the Rebirth Spino. So the idea that reboots and remakes don't replace the original is a total lie. Everywhere I go, the things I love get replaced by worse versions of them. The only exception to this being Operation Genesis, which perfectly nailed the dino. It feels large, dominant, fearsome, and has all the audio and visual designs we fell in love with.
That's not him. That's more like it.
This has been my favorite Jurassic Park simulator since 2003. Man, Universal needs to step it up. I have heard whisperings of how the original audio files from the movie were somehow lost, hence why we keep getting generic angry roar number 37 for Spino, but if that's the case, then just use the files from JPOG, or recreate the roars. Heck, we have AI that can pick out the sounds from the film, no excuses. Okay, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. Spinosaurus deserves better than it's been treated over the years. There's a reason us fans fell in love with it back in 2001. Let's move on to how the theropod is actually utilized in the movie. Honestly, it could have been used better. We see quite a bit of it through various action scenes, some of which are very enjoyable. Each scene it's in is a banger, not gonna lie. The way it smashes the plane, then ragdolls the protagonist around, instantly establishes it as an intimidating, unstoppable force of nature. But we have this giant predator on an island chasing around these annoying little shrimps for no apparent reason other than it'll look cool on camera. I just wish the thing had some motivation besides aura farming, listening to Animal I Have Become. Is it food? Cause the island's full of larger prey. Also, the Spino is standing over an 8-ton T-Rex corpse to eat, as well as the paracarcass the loser left behind. Is it territory? Because our lead skedaddle across the whole western part of the island, where the boat attack happens is far enough away from the landing strip that territory shouldn't still be a problem. One theory I've heard from Clayton Fioriti is that it's getting revenge on the humans for hitting it with the plane. I never personally bought this because A, the Spino would have to understand that humans were controlling the plane and directly caused the injury, and B, we never see the damage on Spino itself, so this anger is never really conveyed. There was even one theory of two separate Spinos, how the one that ate Cooper was killed by the plane impact. Immediately after, the one that pursues our protagonist is the mate seeking vengeance. This last one seems the most in line with evidence from the film, like how is even a large animal gonna survive, let alone shake off that impact? Though it's still never clearly conveyed visually or through any sort of dialogue. Now, I'm not looking for dinosaurs to be fully fledged, overly anthropomorphic characters, but animals still have motivators that drive them to behave in certain ways. We saw this with the parental instincts in The Lost World, or simply the availability of easy prey. Without a clear motive, the Spino can come across as a bloodthirsty monster. Okay, it's time to address the most controversial scene in Jurassic Park 3, the Spinosaurus v T-Rex death duel. The internet has never recovered. This was my favorite as a kid. In 5th grade, we had to write a report on our favorite movie and then draw a scene on a poster. Despite Jaws always being my favorite, I chose JP3 for an excuse to draw this fight. At that time, I wasn't browsing internet forums or watching the upcoming wave of movie rant videos on YouTube, so I didn't know exactly how controversial this scene was. Would Spinosaurus really win a fight against T-Rex? I mean, probably not, for the many reasons Rex fans have stated a million times before. Stronger jaws, binocular vision, heavier body, greater agility on land, yada yada. Does the paleo accuracy affect my enjoyment of the scene? Not at all. It's pure spectacle that lasts just the right amount of time. A clash between titans, though not an epic battle between good and evil. Nothing too self-indulgent or insisting upon itself. Still, I can see the complaint that showing the new threat killing off the old is a lazy way to establish the new as a dangerous foe. Us audiences already understood the danger of Spinosaurus. A T-Rex didn't need to be mutilated to make the point. The outcome is made even worse when you learn the ill intention behind it. You see, the lead paleo consultant for the trilogy was none other than the infamous Jack Horner himself, who bounces from one scandal to another. Entire documentaries can be made about this man, but that's besides the point. Horner often pushed for more realistic portrayals, such as shooting down the concept of flickering tongues. Heck, Michael Crichton heavily based the character of Alan Grant on him when writing the first novel, so there's an odd relationship between the two. Alan serves as a stand-in for Horner, yet the Predator himself is referenced in the films and novels, but he also makes a cameo as a Jurassic World employee. It's one big mess. By the time we reached Jurassic Park 3, Jack Horner adopted the dreaded T-Rex scavenger idea that myself and others lambasted many times. His philosophy when working on 3 largely centered around this stupid concept. He pushed for Spinosaurus as this quintessential apex predator with its long arms and lethal claws, while T-Rex served as simply a big mouth to gobble up carcasses.
Spinosaurus is the guy on the block from this point on. We have a big fight, and T-Rex gets his ass kicked.
From what Jack says, this was a carnivorous, lethal, flesh-eating creature that was bigger than the Tyrannosaurus. Because the T-Rex was essentially just a big mouth, as far as I could tell, and this is just a more effective killing machine in every way.
Now we can see why the filmmakers clowned so hard on Tyrannosaurus. Horner filled their minds with nonsense. With all its flaws, I can enjoy the fight. If you look past the process for how he got here, it's an enjoyable sequence. One more point about this entry's antagonist, I'm not a fan of some of the discourse surrounding it in recent years. If you remember back in 2014, Dr. Nizar Ibrahim published a study on the real animal and revealed new material, showing us how they actually walked around on short hind limbs. He even went as far as proposing quadrupedal locomotion on land, which would have been a first for theropods. This depiction didn't stick. However, another change came in 2020 with the announcement of a tadpole-like tail that is likely used for cruising through mid-Cretaceous waterways. Paleontologists continue to make new discoveries on Spinosaurus, such as a recently named second species, S. mirabilis. It's obvious that our modern interpretation of this beloved theropod is vastly different from what it was back in 2001 when experts reconstructed it as a giant baryonyx with a sail. This caused the usual discourse in the fandom that drives me nuts. Here's another example of the dinosaurs were never supposed to be realistic gibberish. Actually, it's even worse for Spino, since a common idea you'll hear get tossed around is how it was actually the first true hybrid.
There's no reason for me to live. No reason at all.
Not in a filling the gaps way, but a mishmash of several organisms in order to make something cool in the same vein as the Irex. Oh yeah, here's another theory for why it behaved so aggressively, because something hybrid.
Problem with you is, you're completely delusional.
The community has this strange obsession with trying to align Jurassic Park movies with real-world paleontology. Yeah, it was nice when the films used then up-to-date knowledge of the real creatures, but the trilogy was a product of the time, specifically the 90s. Movies don't receive updates or patches, while science does. So fans keep going back and trying to rewrite the lore in order to meet rapidly changing ideas about dinosaurs. Guys, calm down. It's okay for science to move on. It's okay for this series to have dated depictions. Heck, there are several major inaccuracies we know of in-universe, not simply from the frog DNA or hybridization. It's okay to admit that dinosaurs in-universe, even apart from InGen, are different from real-life ones. It's been that way since the very beginning. For 2001, Universal still crafted a well-informed, cool, and intimidating dinosaur. This Spinosaurus is among the much more scientifically accurate subjects relative to the film's release date. Again, its only issues by 2001 standards were the double crests, slit pupils, and pronated wrists, which every theropod had. I'd even argue that the JP3 Spino was more accurate for 2001 than the Rebirth slop was for 2025. Speaking of which, Rebirth provided no reason for why its Spinosaurus looked different. I guess the series is still retconning itself. Surely fans will argue how the new Spino's genome is more pure, which would be a retcon and a strange one since Al St. Hubert was made for experimentation with mutants. Anyway, I smile knowing Universal Studios today, along with director Gareth Edwards, are still getting mogged on by Jurassic Park 3. 4 attempts later, and they still couldn't produce a better sequel than what was at one point considered the worst. As for the Spinosaurus itself, it looked epic, sounded amazing, and left a huge impression on general audiences, immediately becoming a smash hit. It just could have been written a little better. For my final segment, here's where I discuss all the miscellaneous bits that are also worth mentioning. John Williams chose not to return for a third entry since he was busy scoring Spielberg's movie AI. Some dude who's not John Williams composed the film's soundtrack, which I'll admit has its moments, like in The Abandoned Lab. Randy Newman even came to write a country song, but really it's still being carried by the original Jurassic Park theme. I'm a bit disappointed considering the perfection that was the Lost World soundtrack, also done by John Williams. The second adventure showed off so many fun and unique pieces that perfectly complemented its wild safari adventure feel. JP3 missed the same love. Visually, the lush, overgrown jungle vibe allows this one to stand apart from the rest. It shares more in common visually with the original, since both were shot in Hawaii, which is strange considering it takes place on Isla Sorna, like The Lost World. But that one may be more on its predecessor for putting a redwood forest in a tropical island setting. 3's setting is more overgrown, reclaimed by nature with dirt and vines and leaves everywhere. Some good visual storytelling to show how much time has passed, how long the dream of Jurassic Park had been abandoned. Or not. Again, we're never presented with clear answers. I've spent pages on the different dinosaurs featured here, yet I haven't mentioned how they're brought to life on screen. Like the previous installment, Stan Winston Studios crafted the various practical effects through puppetry and animatronics. Industrial Light and Magic worked on the CGI. Both look incredible, for the most part. Most of the creatures look better than the slop thrown in our troughs from recent years. There's two obvious reasons for this. Like I always say, if you want a subject to look lifelike, it's best to blend CGI with practical effects. If everything is CGI, your movie will look more like a video game, breaking suspension of disbelief. Obviously, not everything can be practically done, so for wide shots and highly animated movement, you need computers. When both are blended well together, our brains are tricked into believing a velociraptor is actually there. CGI shots are grounded in reality by the animatronics. When we cut back to the wide shot, our brains have already accepted that this thing is real, so we buy into the CG more. What also works is how worn both look. Each computer-generated model and all of Stan Winston's creatures seem dirty, like they've been living in this jungle their whole lives. Too often today, effects artists don't add flaws. Everything feels too pristine. That alarm in our brain goes off because objects or characters in reality never look that perfect unless they're Ryan Gosling. Part of why JP3 holds up so well is that, yeah, you can tell the animals have been through some crap. I still need to give a special shout out to some of these creatures specifically. Those baby Pteranodon puppets are frightening. They look so good, moving so frantically, similar to baby birds. Their adult counterparts move with a steady, chilling presence. This is the stuff of nightmares. Velociraptors look better than ever, utilizing insanely convincing animatronics and a return of wearable raptor legs to show off those killing claws. While the super smart raptors were a little silly in my opinion, the way they move slowly, fluidly, subtly really sells it. It often looks like there's actual planning behind those eyes. Any scene with them is perfectly executed. My only complaint here is with the mechanical Spinosaurus. Hear me out before you angrily type in the comments. Yes, it looks amazing. The fact that this giant metal beast functions is alone an incredible feat that required a whole team of experts. It's Stan Winston Studios' largest animatronic at 45 feet long and weighing 12 tons. They needed a crane to maneuver this thing around. It's more incredible than anything I'll ever create in my lifetime, so I'm not here to hate on it. Sometimes though, more is demanded of the practical Spino than it can deliver. Some shots where we see it swinging around come across less lifelike than Freddy Fazbear, because more motion, more fluid is needed than it provides. For the more static shots and poses, like in a big roar, the animatronic looks great. So it isn't the Spinosaurus itself, it's how the filmmakers used it. As I said before, we're given many memorable lines along with some funny comic relief. However, it's hard to ignore some of the clunky dialogue and bits that make no sense. Eric, having read Dr. Grant's book, this random kid who has no established interest in paleontology read an expert's published research. Either that or Grant writes children's novels, which doesn't seem like the implication. I know the first movie contained a similar exchange with Tim, but at least he was a huge dino nerd. I did enjoy the meta commentary on Malcolm, who for some reason Eric also read, so now he's interested in paleontology and advanced mathematics. It could be read as the writers poking fun at the novels, where Ian rambles on and on for pages preaching the morals of the story, so that was a fun exchange, if not confusing. Billy's inability to identify Spinosaurus also boggles my mind. Okay, maybe he's just going by InGen's list, but there's only one theropod with a sail this gnarly. He guesses Suchomimus, which is large with a short sail and a long snout, but when Grant tells him to think bigger, he goes with Baryonyx, a smaller relative. Dude should have been fired then and there. The indestructible cell phone is probably the greatest scientific creation featured throughout this entire series, along with its inexplicable feature to ring whenever it's convenient to the cast. Also, hold up, in the beginning when we meet the mercenaries, the phone clearly belongs to Udesky. Later on, it's revealed to be Paul's, and the jingle is for Kirby Paint and Tile Plus. So what gives? Whose phone is this? And another odd moment is with the video camera, how Udesky's flashlight batteries are used to power the video camera, which I'm assuming has the chargeable block thing rather than like AA's or whatever. A few moments later, we meet what's left of Ben Hildebrand. or kill him exactly. Eric made it out fine. Now, these are simply nitpicks. Writing a little more logic into these scenes wouldn't have radically improved the movie with all else being equal, but these goofy moments do take me out of the experience to go,
What the heck, dude?
and the last point I'll make is simply just how much of this movie sticks with you. There's so many quotes, sound effects, iconography that gets downloaded into your brain. An entire generation of moviegoers remember simple bits from JP3, such as the Kirby Paint and Tile jingle. My brother-in-law chose that as his ringtone. I've also always wanted a functioning Velociraptor resonating chamber, but it's pure movie magic. On set, it probably sounded like a toot or whatever. Several lines entered my daily vernacular, like if my friends ask me if I'm ready to hop on OG Fortnite, I'll always reply, for all its flaws, Jurassic Park 3 is a very memorable and fun movie. So much of it sticks with you years later. Man, Jurassic Park 3. There's no easy way to describe this one. I can see why many fans still love it 25 years later, looking past its flaws, while many critics and moviegoers instantly wrote it off. The troubled production shows in a hacked and slashed script. What we're left with is a movie that doesn't try to accomplish much story-wise, but still manages to thrill audiences with many fun character moments, awesome archosaurs, and wild set pieces. JP3 is the textbook definition of a popcorn flick. It's made as an enjoyable ride you can throw on for fun with friends, but think any harder, dive any deeper, and you'll be left disappointed. As an old man 25 years later, I neither love nor hate it. I learned to enjoy Jurassic Park 3 as a simple, fun ride. I've made my peace with it, and I can go back and rewatch it and enjoy it. It wasn't nearly as good as the previous installments, and not nearly as bad as each theatrical release after. There's a great movie here, not even too far below the surface. Like a fossil, it needs some dusting off around the edges, and maybe it's missing some pieces. The skull warped, so what's here isn't in perfect shape either, but with all that, you can still see the wonderful animal within. And much like some specimens, I'm sure the film will continue to be debated for decades to come. So, those are my thoughts on Jurassic Park 3. Let me know what you guys at home think. My brain is divided on this one, so I'm curious to see, do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? Anything you'd like to add? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like, subscribe, and to check out my social media. See you next time.